Once upon a time, in the heart of Enugu, there lived a young woman named Amora. She was 27, tall and beautiful, with deep brown skin and warm eyes that always held a spark of life. She worked as a pharmacist in a small but popular community pharmacy, where patients often came not just for medicine but for her gentle smile and kind voice. Amora wasn't rich, but she was content. She believed in hard work, love, and loyalty. She had been raised by strict but loving parents who taught her to always stand by her word, and to never play games with someone's heart. She had spent years praying for the right man. And then, Chike came into her life. It all started one rainy Tuesday afternoon. Amora was just about to lock up the pharmacy when a black Benz pulled up in front of the store. The door opened, and a tall, clean-shaven man in a navy blue kaftan stepped out, holding an umbrella. His eyes met hers immediately, and he smiled like he already knew her. "Good evening," he said, his voice deep and smooth. "Are you Amora?" She blinked. "Yes. Do we know each other?" He laughed. "Not yet. But I've heard about the kind lady at Divine Mercy Pharmacy who gives free paracetamol to children." She smiled shyly. "I don't usually give it for free, only when they really need it and can't pay." "That's what I heard," he replied. "And that's why I came. I wanted to meet the woman with the softest heart in town." Amora laughed. "That's a strange reason to visit a pharmacy." He shrugged. "Maybe I came to heal a different kind of sickness." That was how it began. Chike quickly became everything Amora had ever dreamed of. He was romantic without being too forward. He texted her good morning and good night every day. He sent lunch to her pharmacy whenever she forgot to eat. He took her to fancy restaurants and art shows. Within 2 months, he had met her parents. Her father liked him immediately. Her mother said he had husband spirit. But there was something about Chike that never added up. He was clearly wealthy. He had 2 cars. He always wore designer clothes. He took Amora to restaurants where the bill for 2 could feed a whole street. But he never really said what he did for work. "Real estate," he would say casually. "I flip properties." Amora would nod, but inside, she wondered, how many properties can a man flip in just 3 months and still spend this much? One afternoon, while they sat at the rooftop of a new lounge in town, she asked again, "Chike, what exactly do you do? I mean, really?" He smiled, leaned back in his chair, and said, "I told you. Real estate, consultancy. I have some silent partners." "Are you the silent one or the noisy one?" she teased. He laughed. "Does it matter? You're enjoying the results, aren't you?" She chuckled, but something inside her stayed unsettled. She wasn't asking because of the money. She just wanted to know the full truth about the man she was falling in love with. Still, Chike made her feel safe and loved. When he proposed on her birthday, in front of friends and family, with a band playing her favorite song and fireworks lighting up the sky, she said yes. She cried into his shoulder that night, saying, "I never thought I'd find someone like you." Chike kissed her forehead and whispered, "And I'll never give you a reason to regret it." The wedding preparations began like a dream. Chike insisted on paying for everything. "Your family won't spend 1 naira, he told her firmly. "You've done enough. Just relax and enjoy your day." He booked the most expensive hall in the city, complete with a glass aisle, chandelier lights, and gold-plated chairs. He brought a wedding planner from Abuja who spoke too fast and used words like floral-themed moodboard and customized stage drapery. Amora tried to keep up, but every time she looked at the growing list of things being bought, champagne fountains, LED screen backdrops, imported wedding cake, she asked, "Chike, are you sure we need all this?" He would just hold her hand and say, "You only get married once. Let's do it right." She smiled, touched by his excitement. Still, something felt too fast, too showy. One night, Amora's best friend Adiz came to her room, frowning. "Babe, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy," Adiz said. "But don't you think this guy is trying too hard to impress? I mean, who is this wedding for? You or Instagram?" Amora sighed. "I've asked him many times. He says he just wants me to be happy." "And are you happy?" I think I am. She paused. I just wish I understood him more. Adiz hugged her. Then trust your gut, Amora. Don't let the glitter blind you. 2 days before the wedding, something happened that changed everything. Chike called her and said he would be staying at Crystal River Hotel for the night. He said it was to settle the vendors and get his head in the zone. Amora, being the kind of person she was, decided to surprise him with a gift. It was a box of gold-plated cufflinks shaped like tiny hearts, with C&A engraved on them. She had been saving for it for weeks. She even bought a handwritten card that said, "Forever starts now. I love you." She arrived at the hotel just before 9:30 p.m. The receptionist smiled at her. "Oh, you're here for Mr. Chike? Room 407. "Thank you," she replied. She stepped into the elevator, heart fluttering with excitement. She imagined the look on his face when he saw her. But as she stepped out of the elevator and turned the corner, she stopped. Chike's voice. Laughter. Coming from room 405. She frowned. Wasn't he in 407? Curious, she moved closer. The door was not fully shut, just slightly open. She heard a woman's voice. Rich, full, older. "You've done well, my love," the woman said. She looked sweet and simple. "Nobody will ever suspect you belong to me." Amora's breath caught in her throat. Then Chike's voice came. "That's the whole point. I marry her. Everyone sees me as a clean man. No more rumors. You and I can finally be free." "You better make it work," the woman said, laughing softly. "You are my best investment." "I won't disappoint you," he replied. Amora staggered backward like someone had slapped her. She didn't need to see their faces. She knew that voice. That woman was Mama Bisi, a wealthy, well-known widow in town. Everyone knew her, and everyone had whispered once or twice about her and younger men. But Amora never imagined, never believed. Her hands shook. She looked at the cufflink box. It suddenly felt like a joke. She turned and walked out of the hotel quietly. No tears, no screaming, no throwing the box at the door. Just silence. Because in that moment, a different part of her heart woke up. A voice in her head whispered, "Don't cry. Don't beg. Don't walk away yet. Let him stand before your family, your guests, your God, and then let the world watch him fall." Amora clutched the gift tightly and walked back into the night. The bride everyone thought was lucky had just discovered the truth. And now, she was going to write her own ending. The night air outside the hotel was heavy and warm. Amora stepped out, walking like someone in a daze. She didn't even realize she had walked past the security man who had greeted her earlier. Her hands were still holding the gift box. The ribbon hung loosely from it now, swinging with every step. She reached the parking lot and leaned on the bonnet of her car. Her breathing was shallow. Her chest felt tight. She wasn't crying. Not yet. The tears sat behind her eyes, but they couldn't fall. Not now. She looked down at the cufflink box and opened it slowly. 2 golden hearts stared back at her. A gift for a man who had just called another woman his real love. She whispered to herself, "You said you'd never give me a reason to regret saying yes." Her hands closed into fists. She wanted to scream, to throw the box into the road and watch it disappear under a speeding car. But she didn't. Instead, she climbed into the driver's seat and shut the door gently. She sat there, staring through the windshield. Then, she turned off her car's interior lights, so no one would notice her. And she waited. Minutes passed. Then about 30 minutes. At 10:42 p.m., the hotel door opened. Chike stepped out first, laughing, his white kaftan shining under the yellow lights. Mama Bisi followed behind him, wearing a tight gold wrapper that clung to her figure, with her high heels clicking loudly on the tiled ground. They looked like 2 people who owned the world. Amora watched silently as Chike helped Mama Bisi into her car, kissed her hand, and whispered something that made her laugh again. The driver closed the door and drove her away. Chike stood there for a moment, scrolling through his phone. Then he went back inside. Amora didn't move. She sat in that car till almost midnight, thinking. Everything inside her felt like broken glass. The man she thought loved her had been lying from the beginning, and the woman she had once respected from a distance was part of it. But the pain slowly changed into something else. Clarity. Amora whispered, "You want to play with me? You think I'm just a name on your guest list? A doll to wear a white dress and smile?" She took in a deep breath and wiped her eyes. "No problem, Chike. We'll still have that wedding. But it won't end the way you think." The next morning, Amora stood in front of the mirror, brushing her hair slowly. Her mother walked in carrying a small basket of eggs and bread. "Amora, you've not eaten since yesterday. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine, Mama," she said calmly. "Just tired. I couldn't sleep well." That's normal. It's wedding tension," her mother replied, dropping the basket. "But don't let it spoil your joy. God has blessed you. A man like Chike doesn't come around every day." Amora smiled faintly. "Yes, Mama. God has really blessed me." Her mother kissed her forehead and walked out of the room. Amora turned back to the mirror. She didn't see a bride anymore. She saw a woman on a mission. Later that afternoon, she called her best friend Adiz. "Can you meet me at the cafe near the bookshop? I need to talk." Adiz arrived 30 minutes later, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, holding a bottle of cold Zobo. "You scared me with that call," Adiz said, sitting opposite her. "What happened?" Amora looked at her for a long time, then leaned forward. "I went to surprise Chike last night." Adiz's eyes widened. "And?" "I caught him with Mama BC." There was a pause. Then Adiz blinked twice. "Sorry, what?" "I caught them together," Amora said again. "Not by accident. I stood outside their hotel room and heard them talking. He called her his real love. She told him to marry me so that people will stop suspecting. I'm the cover-up." Adiz's mouth opened but no words came out. "They've been using me, Adiz. I'm the decoy, the mask for their dirty secret." "Oh my God." Amora nodded. "Yes, God is watching. But so am I." "What did you do?" "Nothing." "What do you mean nothing?" "I didn't confront him. I didn't say a word. I just walked away." Adiz stared at her in disbelief. "Why? Why didn't you slap him or something?" Amora looked into her friend's eyes. "Because I want him to suffer. Not just quietly. I want the entire city to watch." Adiz leaned back slowly. "Oh wow. I'm not canceling the wedding," Amora continued. "Let him wear his agbada and dance. Let him stand at the altar. Then I will give him the gift he truly deserves." Adiz blinked. "Are you sure you want to go through with this? Like, seriously?" "I'm not joking, Adiz. I need your help." "Say the word." Amora brought out her phone and placed it on the table. "We need to change the guest list." The following day, Amora met with the wedding planner. "Please," she said politely, "I need a front row seat reserved for someone very special." The planner smiled. "Is it for your grandmother?" "No. It's for Mema BC. Label it special guest, MB, and make sure it's in clear view of the stage." The planner looked confused. "Do you want her to be close to the bridal table?" "Yes," Amora said with a tight smile. "Very close." That evening, Chike called. "Hey baby," he said. "I've missed you all day." "I've been busy with family," Amora replied. Her voice was calm, steady. You sound tired." "I am." "Well, 2 more days and we'll be husband and wife. Are you excited?" Amora smiled to herself. "More than you can imagine. I can't wait to see you walk down the aisle." Amora closed her eyes. "I can't wait for that moment either, Chike." He laughed gently. "All right, love. I have to run. I'm meeting a decorator tonight." "Okay, take care." "You too. I love you." She paused for a second. "I know." Then she ended the call. The day before the wedding came fast. The compound was filled with music, decorations, laughter, and noise. Relatives flew in from Port Harcourt, Lagos, and even Ghana. The village elders were already singing her praises. The bride who landed the perfect man. Everywhere Amora turned, people were hugging her, blessing her, telling her how lucky she was. She smiled through it all. Inside her room, she sat on the edge of her bed, scrolling through her notes. She had prepared everything. Mama Bisi had been invited. The videographer had been told to record every second. Her speech was written, memoized. Now she just needed to stand there and deliver it. That night, Adiz came into the room. "Are you ready?" "I've never been more ready," Amora said softly. Adiz sat beside her. "I still can't believe you kept it together all this time." Amora's face tightened. That's the thing with betrayal. It either breaks you or sharpens you. Adiz nodded. "He deserves what's coming." "I'm not doing it just for me," Amora said. "I'm doing it for every woman who was used and discarded. For every girl who thought she was special only to find out she was just a tool." Silence filled the room. Then Amora whispered, "Let the world watch. And let the world never forget." Amora sat alone by the window, just after midnight. The house was quiet. Her sisters had gone to sleep. Her mother had finished folding the lace wrappers for the wedding and had finally stopped humming church songs. But Amora stayed up. She couldn't sleep. She didn't want to. The streetlight outside poured a soft yellow glow into her room. The wedding dress hung beside the window, perfectly ironed, covered in a white cloth. It looked like it belonged to a fairy-tale bride. Someone who had no secrets to carry. Someone who still believed in love. But Amora wasn't that girl anymore. Her chest ached with silence. Not the kind of pain that makes you cry loud and fall to the ground. This one was quiet. Deep. Like a fire burning slowly inside, waiting for the right time to rise. She hugged her knees and stared at the dress. Then she whispered, "I was so blind." It started with little signs. But love had covered her eyes. She remembered the first time Chike brought her to a car dealership and said, "Pick anyone you like." She had laughed. "What do you mean anyone?" He said, "You're my wife. I'll do anything to make you smile." But when she picked a small Toyota, he looked disappointed. "That's too simple. Why not the Lexus?" She thought he was just generous. Now she understood he was trying to match a lifestyle that wasn't his to begin with. A lifestyle given to him by the same woman who was now calling her a mask. Amora closed her eyes. She remembered his phone habits. How he always left the room to answer certain calls. How he never allowed her to touch his second phone. She remembered how he changed the subject every time she asked about his job. One time, she asked, "What does your company actually do?" He smiled and said, "We move big things." She laughed and said, "What does that even mean?" He winked and replied, "You'll understand when the money enters your account." She had laughed then, too, but deep down, she had felt confused. She had ignored the confusion. Because he was kind. Because he held her hand in public. Because he called her his queen. But now, she saw everything clearly. She was never his queen. She was the curtain. She was the decoration. She was the lie they needed to keep the real truth safe. Amora stood up and walked to the mirror. Her eyes were puffy. Her lips were dry. She stared at her reflection and asked herself, how did I not see it? By 4 a.m., her alarm rang. The wedding day had arrived. Makeup artists came in with large boxes. Photographers were already moving about, capturing every moment. Her sisters were busy snapping selfies and laughing about whose jewel was tighter. But Amora moved through it all like a ghost. She sat in the makeup chair, letting the woman do her work. "You have very calm skin," the makeup artist said. "You must be really peaceful inside." Amora smiled without answering. Adiz walked in and sat beside her. She looked worried. "Did you sleep at all?" "Not really." "You want to talk?" "Later, when everything is done." Adiz reached for her hand. "You don't have to carry this alone." "I know, but I need to feel all of it, every bit of it, so I never make this mistake again." The makeup artist didn't say a word, but the silence in the room became louder. Around 7:30 a.m., the bridal convoy began to line up. The cars were sparkling. Decorations were perfect. The weather was beautiful. Even nature didn't know what was coming. Amora stood in her gown, staring at herself in the mirror. "You look like a goddess," one of her cousins whispered. Everyone in the room agreed. But Amora didn't care. She was thinking about the words she would say at the altar, the truth she would pour into that microphone, the shame that would wrap itself around Chike's shoulders. She had written every word. She had rehearsed it. But now, standing in the dress, she felt something shift inside her. She turned to Adiz and whispered, "What if I lose control? What if I break down?" Adiz came close and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then you break down, but not before they hear the truth." Amora swallowed hard. "I'm scared." "You're strong." Amora held her breath for a second. Then she nodded. "Let's go." The church was packed. Guests were already seated. The groomsmen were in line. The choir was singing softly. The air was filled with perfume, powder, and expensive fabric. Chike stood in front of the altar, smiling like a man who had everything. He looked calm, confident. He didn't know what was waiting for him. Mama Bisi had arrived quietly. She was sitting in the front row, her gold lace shining under the lights. People whispered and admired her. They didn't know she was the reason this wedding existed in the first place. Amora arrived outside the church in a white stretch car. Everyone turned to see her. People gasped. Phones came out. Some women started dancing beside the car even before the door opened. "She's here," someone shouted. "The bride is coming." The music changed. The organ began to play the wedding march. Amora stepped out, and for a moment, everything felt like a dream again. But this time, she was the dream they would never forget. As she walked down the aisle, her heart pounded. She looked straight ahead. She didn't look at Chike. She didn't look at Mama Bisi. She focused on the pulpit. One step after another, each one carrying pain, fire, and truth. She reached the front and stood beside Chike. He leaned over and whispered, "You look like a gift." She smiled tightly and whispered back, "One you can't return." The pastor cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the joining of this man and this woman." Amora's mind drifted for a second. She imagined herself screaming, throwing her shoe at him, crying in front of the crowd. But she came back to reality. She knew what she had to do. "Before we proceed," the pastor said, "do we have the rings?" The best man nodded and stepped forward. Chike collected the ring. His hands were steady. "Chike," the pastor said, "do you take Amora to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and to cherish, in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live?" Chike turned to her and smiled. "I do." Amora felt her stomach twist. "Now, Amora." But she raised her hand gently. "Sorry, sir. Before I say anything." The hall went silent. "I'd like to say a few words." The pastor looked surprised but nodded. "Go ahead." Amora turned to face the guests. She saw her parents, her sisters, her friends. She saw Mama Bisi's proud smile. She saw Chike's calm face. She took the microphone. She held it tight. And she spoke. But that part was not meant for this chapter. That part would come when the storm hit. For now, as she stood there, microphone in hand, her heart felt broken. But her voice was whole. The microphone felt heavy in Amora's hand. Heavier than she expected. Her palms were sweating. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Yet her face stayed calm. She stood at the altar, her white gown glowing under the lights. Her veil slightly pushed back. Her eyes scanned the faces in front of her. She saw guests smiling, expecting a sweet bride's speech. She saw phones raised, ready to record what they thought would be a romantic moment. She saw Chike, standing beside her, grinning proudly like a man who believed he had one. And then, just beyond him, Mama Bisi, sitting in the front row. legs crossed, lips painted red, dressed in shimmering lace that sparkled like gold dust. She looked untouchable, but not for long. Amora took a deep breath and raised the mic. "I know this isn't the usual time for a bride to speak," she began, her voice steady. "But before I make any vows, there's something I need to say." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Chike turned slightly, looking confused. "What are you doing?" he whispered. She ignored him. She looked at her mother and father. They were sitting up straight now, eyes alert. She looked back at the guests. "For the past few months," she said slowly, "I've been preparing for this wedding with all my heart. I thought I was marrying the man of my dreams. A man I believed God sent to me." Chike gave a nervous laugh. "Baby, we can talk after. Give me the mic." He tried to touch her arm, but she pulled away gently. "Let me finish," she said, not taking her eyes off the crowd. The silence in the church was sharp. Even the choir master froze. "I believed this man, Chike, chose me because he loved me. I believed he worked hard. I believed everything about him." She paused. Her voice remained clear. "But 3 nights ago, I found out the truth." A few people gasped. "I went to his hotel. I wanted to surprise him. I came with a gift. But instead, I got a surprise of my own." Chike's eyes widened. "Amora, stop this now," he said through clenched teeth. She turned to him for the first time, her voice still calm. "Do you want to tell them who was in that room with you? Or should I?" His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then she turned back to the guests. "I saw him with someone. A woman. An older woman. Laughing. Touching. Planning. They didn't know I was listening." She slowly looked down at the front row, then pointed. "That woman is sitting right there." All eyes turned. Mama BC blinked. Her smile dropped. Her face stiffened. "You all know her," Amora continued. "She's respected. Powerful. But she's also the one my groom truly loves." Gasps filled the air. She paid for this wedding. She paid for his suits, his cars, his fake business image. And me? I was the perfect mask. A young, decent wife to make their secret look clean. Murmurs rose from the crowd. Phones were still recording. Some people were already standing. Chike grabbed the mic. "This is nonsense. She's lying." Amora laughed softly and turned to him. "Then deny it. Chike, tell everyone you weren't with her. Tell them she hasn't been funding your lifestyle. Look your parents in the eye and lie to them." Chike looked like a fish out of water. His mouth moved, but no words came. "Should I play the recording?" Amora asked. He turned to her sharply. "What recording?" "Oh, you didn't know I was standing by the door, right? You didn't know I pressed record when you told her I was your respectable cover." Someone from the back shouted, "Play it." Another voice said, "God forbid." People started pointing at Mama BC. "Is it true? That's your boy toy? What kind of shame is this?" Mama BC stood up suddenly. Her voice was loud and cold. "This is nonsense. This is slander. She's twisting things." Amora raised the mic again. "You can call it whatever you want, but you both know it's the truth." Chike turned to the pastor. "Please, pastor, this girl is having a breakdown. Let's take a break and sort this." But the pastor had already stepped back. The entire altar was no longer a place of blessing. It had become a courtroom. Amora looked at Chike one more time. "I was going to spend my life with you," she said, her voice shaking just a little now. "I was going to build a home, have children. I defended you when people asked questions. I trusted you even when things didn't add up. And all this time, you were using me." Her voice broke for the first time, but she held herself steady. "You wanted a wedding. I gave you one. But today, I'm not leaving here as your wife. I'm leaving as the woman who exposed the truth." She turned to the crowd again. "And to every girl watching this, in this church or online, don't ever let anyone make you feel small. Don't ever let someone silence your truth just because they smile nicely or drive a big car. Love should never come with lies. Or shame. She slowly pulled the veil off her head and dropped the mic on the pulpit. Then she removed the ring box from her pocket and placed it in front of Chike. You can give this back to your sponsor, she said. She paid for it, right? And then, she walked down the aisle. Alone, but strong. The church burst into noise. Some people chased after her, calling her name. Others began to shout at Chike. A few even confronted Mama BC directly. Is this true? You're old enough to be his mother. Why would you do this to that poor girl? Mama BC turned and stormed out, pushing aside the ushers. Chike tried to follow her, but his parents blocked him. His father grabbed his shoulder. Is it true? Chike said nothing. His mother slapped him hard across the face. You brought shame to this family. Outside, Amora stood near a parked car, breathing heavily. Adiz ran to her and wrapped her in a hug. You did it, she whispered. You really did it. Amora nodded, tears finally rolling down her cheeks. I'm not broken, she said. I thought I would be, but I'm not. You're free, Adiz said. Yes, I'm finally free. The sun was still high when Amora stepped into her house that afternoon. There were no drums, no cheers, no dancing, just silence. Her mother sat in the living room, eyes wide with shock, wrapper loose around her waist. Her father stood near the window, hands folded behind his back. He wasn't saying a word. He didn't even look at her at first. Amora stood at the door, still dressed in her wedding gown, the veil hanging off one side, her earrings gone. She felt tired, but her back remained straight. Her mother was the first to speak. Amora, what did you do? Amora walked in slowly, dropped her handbag on the chair, and pulled off her shoes. Her voice was quiet. I told the truth. Her father finally turned. His face looked hard, unreadable. You ruined your wedding, he said, in front of everybody. Amora looked at him and said, No, he ruined it. I only exposed what he did. You should have come to us first, her mother said, rubbing her hands together. You embarrassed the family. They are already talking about it in the village. On Facebook. Everywhere. Amora walked to the center of the room. Mama, what would you have told me to do? Swallow the pain and smile through it? Marry a man who was using me to hide his affair with a woman twice his age? Her mother opened her mouth to reply but stopped. Amora's voice shook now. I was supposed to wear a white dress and pretend everything was okay? Spend my life living a lie? Her father sighed. You don't understand what you've started. That woman, Mama BC, she's powerful. She knows people, politicians, police, businessmen, and Chike's people will not rest. They will fight back. I'm not afraid, Amora said. Let them come. The truth is already out. Her mother stood up and walked toward her. I'm not angry with you. I'm scared. For you. For all of us. You made a bold move, Amora. A very bold one. Amora nodded slowly. I had to. If I didn't, I would have hated myself for the rest of my life. Her father turned back to the window, but this time, his voice was softer. You're still my daughter. Just rest for now. Tomorrow we'll talk again. By evening, the house was full. Family members from all over had come. Some were whispering in corners. Others were arguing in low voices. Some aunties kept looking at Amora with pity. Her cousin Uche pulled her aside and whispered, Your video is everywhere. Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube. Some people say you're brave. Others say you disgraced womanhood. Amora smiled bitterly. Let them say what they like. They weren't the ones being lied to. Adiz came shortly after. She carried 2 nylon bags filled with jollof rice and drinks. You need to eat, she said. Amora took 1 bag and sat with her friend on the stairs. For a while, they ate quietly. Then Adiz broke the silence. Do you regret it? Amora shook her head. No, but I'm scared. Of what? What comes next? Adiz wiped her lips. Well, whatever comes, you won't face it alone. They sat there for a long time, watching the moon rise above the rooftops. The next morning, Amora's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. She turned it on and found hundreds of messages. Some were from strangers. You're my hero. I wish I had your courage. You saved yourself. Others were hateful. Shame on you. You should have stayed silent. Men will fear women more now because of you. There were even fake accounts using her name, pretending to be her. She put the phone down and covered her face with her hands. Then a message popped up that made her stop breathing for a second. From Chike. You think you've won? You don't know who you're messing with. This isn't over. She stared at the message for a long time. Then she locked the phone. Later that day, she went to visit a cafe near her pharmacy. She just needed to breathe. Think. Feel like herself again. She wore a plain black gown and a headscarf, hoping no one would recognize her. But as she stepped inside, a woman stood up and clapped. You are that girl. The one that spoke her truth. Others looked up and started murmuring. Is it really her? She's the wedding girl. Wow, she's brave. A man walked over and offered to pay for her drink. People need to hear more stories like yours, he said. Amora smiled awkwardly. She didn't want attention. She just wanted peace. But peace was still far away. By the third day, something unexpected happened. She got a letter. It was delivered to her pharmacy, in a white envelope with gold edges. No stamp, no name, just her name in bold black ink. Amora. She opened it carefully. Inside was a card. Expensive cardstock. Cream-colored. Gold embossed. The message was short. You started something. Now finish it. Join us. We're watching. The truth needs a voice. There was no signature. No contact number. Just a symbol at the bottom. A small eye inside a circle. Amora frowned. What is this? She whispered. She turned the card over. Nothing else. She placed it back inside the envelope and tucked it into her bag. That night, she told Adiz. This card came today. I don't know who sent it. Adiz examined it closely. It's fancy. Must be from someone rich. But what do they mean join us? Join who? I don't know, but this symbol looks familiar. Adiz pulled out her phone and began searching. A few minutes later, she showed Amora an article. It was about a group of women called the Second Circle. A quiet but powerful group of women across the country who helped victims of betrayal, abuse, and injustice expose the truth and take back their lives. Amora read every word, her heart beating faster. These women use media, law, and influence to fight back. They are silent, but their actions are loud. At the end of the article was the same symbol from the card. The eye in a circle. Amora leaned back. Do you think they saw the video? They must have. What do I do? Adiz shrugged. They said join us. Maybe this is just the beginning. Amora looked down at the card again. For the first time in days, she smiled, not out of pain, but out of power. By the weekend, Chike's name was everywhere. A small blog wrote about his secret life. A woman came forward claiming he had scammed her before. Another said he used to beg her for money years ago, pretending to be broke. Mama BC released a statement through her PR team. I was only supporting a promising young man in business. I had no idea about the wedding arrangements. But nobody believed her. Comments flooded her page. So you sponsor men now? Is that why your last husband left? The truth is chasing you fast. The scandal spread like wildfire. Chike deleted all his social media pages. But Amora? She stayed silent. She didn't respond, didn't post, didn't explain anything. She let the silence speak for her. One night, Adiz asked her, what if they want you to do more? Amora looked at the card again. Then maybe it's time I stopped being quiet. What are you thinking? I'm thinking the world is full of women like me. Quiet, used, thrown aside. And maybe it's time we stop just surviving and start fighting. Adiz smiled. That's the Amora I know. A few days later, a second card came. This time, it had a different message. You were not just a bride. You were a mirror. And now, others are seeing themselves. Let's talk. This one had a phone number. Amora held the card in her hand. She looked at Adiz. Adiz nodded. Call them. So Amora picked up her phone and dialed. Amora stared at the number for a long time. It was written in clean black ink under the strange symbol. A simple I inside a circle. She could feel her heart beating hard in her chest as she held the phone. Adiz sat beside her, watching quietly. What if it's a scam? Amora asked in a low voice. Then we'll block the number and move on, Adiz replied calmly. But what if it's not? Amora nodded slowly. What if it's something real? She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and pressed the call button. The phone rang twice. Then a woman picked up. Her voice was soft, calm, and deep. Amora. Amora froze. How do you know it's me? The woman gave a small laugh. You're not hard to recognize. You made the whole country pause for 5 minutes. Welcome. Amora swallowed. Who are you? We are a circle, the woman said. We find the ones who were silenced and give them their voice back. You didn't just speak. You made people listen. And now, many are listening to you. I didn't do it to start a movement, Amora said quickly. I just wanted to speak my truth. Exactly, the woman replied. And that's why you're perfect. You didn't do it for fame. You did it because you couldn't take it anymore. There was a pause. Would you like to meet us? Amora hesitated. Wait. We'll send you the location. It's safe. Private. No one will know. The call ended before Amora could say another word. She looked at Adiz. Adiz raised her eyebrows. This is starting to sound like a spy movie. Tell me about it, Amora whispered. That evening, Amora received a text. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. no makeup, no camera, just you. The address is below. It was a quiet street on the edge of town, a place she didn't know well. She showed the message to Adiz. I'm coming with you, Adiz said quickly. Amora shook her head. They said just me. I don't care. I'll wait in the car if I have to. Amora smiled. Fine, but if they try to kidnap me, call the army. Adiz laughed. Deal. The next day at exactly 4 p.m., Amora arrived. It was an old house with high walls and a small black gate. No signboard. No decorations. The only thing that marked it was the same I symbol carved into the gate. She took a deep breath and knocked. A security guard opened the door, looked at her, and stepped aside without saying anything. Inside was calm. The air smelled like lemon and books. She walked into a quiet room with white curtains and soft chairs. There were 5 women seated inside, all dressed in simple clothes. Some looked older, some younger. One of them stood up and smiled. You came. Amora nodded. I'm Kyoma, the woman said. Welcome to the second circle. They talked for hours. Amora told them everything. How she met Chike, how he lied, how she found out, and what she did at the wedding. The women listened without interrupting. Some took notes. Others just watched her closely. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then one of them said, Do you know how many women live in your story but never get the chance to speak? Amora looked down. I didn't plan any of this. And that's why it matters, Kyoma said. People listen to those who speak from real pain. Another woman spoke. We're not trying to make you famous, Amora. We want to give you tools, protection, support. You've already started the movement. We just want to help you grow it. Amora frowned. How? We have connections. Media, lawyers, platforms. If you're ready, we'll help you speak. Not just for yourself, but for others. Amora didn't answer immediately. She sat back and closed her eyes for a moment. Images flashed in her mind. Chike's smug face. Mama Beese's proud laugh. Her father's disappointment. The cheering in the church. The online messages, both good and cruel. She opened her eyes. I'm ready. That night, back at home, she sat with Adiz and told her everything. They're not just some random group, Amora explained. They're women who've been through fire and came out stronger. Lawyers, journalists, teachers, businesswomen, even a retired judge. Adiz looked amazed. So what now? They want to teach me how to speak, how to use media, how to stay safe. They said, this isn't just about me anymore. Adiz leaned forward. But are you sure you want this? More cameras? More people talking? Amora nodded slowly. If I don't speak now, I'll regret it forever. Adiz smiled. Then I'm with you. Till the end. In the days that followed, Amora began her journey. She took classes online, how to speak clearly, how to handle interviews, how to stay calm when attacked. She met with other women from the group, women with stories even worse than hers. There was Halima, a woman whose husband sold her father's land without telling her. There was Ezin, a teacher who exposed her boss's harassment and was fired for it. There was Amina, who married a pastor only to find out he had 2 secret families. Each story opened Amora's eyes more. She wasn't alone, and that made her stronger. One day, she received a call from a popular talk show. They wanted her on air. They offered money, fame, exposure, but she turned them down. Not yet. She wasn't doing this for lights and applause. She wanted something deeper. And then, the idea came. She sat up in her bed one night and whispered to herself, what if we create something of our own? The next morning, she met with Kyoma. I want to start a project, Amora said. A space where women can share their stories. Not for clout, not for pity, but to be free. Kyoma smiled. We've been waiting for you to say that. And so, the Wedding March was born. Not a podcast, not a gossip blog, a quiet but strong online page where women shared their stories, anonymously or openly. Stories of betrayal, stories of lies, stories of bravery, and each story ended with one line. She walked away, not in shame, but in strength. The page grew fast. In 1 week, it had 10,000 followers. In 2 weeks, 40,000. By the end of the month, women were reaching out from different countries. Some just wanted to say thank you. Others wanted to tell their own stories. And Amora? She stayed in the middle of it all. Calm, brave, real. One afternoon, while having tea with Adiz, her friend asked, do you ever think about Chike now? Amora paused. Sometimes. Do you miss him? No. Do you hate him? She thought for a moment. No, she said quietly. I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him. He had the chance to love someone real, but he chose money. And secrets. Adiz shook her head. He must be hiding in shame. He should be, Amora said. But knowing him, he's probably planning his next move. Adiz looked serious. You don't think he'll try to hurt you, do you? Amora smiled. I'm not that easy to break anymore. And she was right, because somewhere, even in the shadows, Chike was watching, and he was angry. It started with a message. A single message that appeared under one of the stories shared on the Wedding March page. She ruined a man's life just to trend. She'll pay. Amora read it quietly. She had seen a lot of hate messages since her story went viral, but this one felt different. It didn't feel like a stranger typing from a phone. It felt personal. It felt close. She took a screenshot and sent it to Kyoma. 5 minutes later, Kyoma replied, Ignore it. Don't answer. But keep everything. We're tracking. Amora nodded, even though she was alone. That evening, she locked all her doors and windows. She double-checked her front gate. She even turned off the lights in her bedroom so that no one could see inside. Her heart didn't race, but something inside her had gone quiet. A silence that felt like waiting. The next day, Adiz came over. I saw the message, she said. Do you think it's Chike? Amora nodded slowly. It sounds like him. Or someone close to him. Adiz's eyes darkened. If he tries anything. I'm not afraid of him, Amora said, cutting her off. I'm just tired. I thought after everything, he'd crawl back into whatever hole he came from. Adiz sighed. Men like him don't stop until they feel in control again. Well, Amora said, he'll learn that I'm not someone he can control anymore. That weekend, Amora was invited to speak at a private event organized by the Second Circle. It was her first public appearance since the wedding. The hall was quiet when she entered. It was filled with women, young and old. Some wore suits, others wore plain wrappers. Some had notebooks, others just came to listen. Kyoma introduced her. Today, we have someone special with us. A woman who spoke when the world wanted her to stay silent. A woman who exposed not just a man, but a pattern. Amora, the floor is yours. Amora stepped forward. She stood behind the podium, wearing a simple blue gown with her hair tied back. She looked around and smiled. I'm not a professional speaker, she said, so I'll just talk to you like you're my sisters. Some women nodded. She continued, when I stood at the altar on my wedding day, I thought I was about to make the biggest mistake of my life. But today, I know I was about to make the most important decision. Not to marry, but to speak. She paused, her voice firm, because silence is the friend of betrayal, and I was tired of being friends with pain. The crowd was silent, so I opened my mouth, and when I did, something strange happened. People listened. Some hated me, some loved me, but they all listened. She looked up. Today, I'm standing here not as a victim, but as someone who took her voice back. And I want to say this to anyone here who's been lied to, used, or hidden behind closed doors. Her voice cracked slightly, but she didn't stop. You are not small. You are not disposable. And you are not alone. The crowd broke into soft applause. Some women were already wiping their eyes. Amora stepped back, heart full. She felt light, like she had taken off a heavy coat. Kyoma smiled from the corner. The truth had found its voice again. But the next morning, everything changed. Amora's phone buzzed non-stop. Calls, messages, emails. She opened her Instagram and froze. Chike had posted something. A long, written caption under a picture of him and Amora. One from their pre-wedding shoot. I stayed silent all this time because I didn't want to shame her. But now I have to speak. Amora didn't tell the full story. She was never innocent. She had secrets too. Ask her who she was meeting behind my back. Ask her what she did with her ex the week before our wedding. I have proof. Real proof. I kept it to protect her. But since she chose the public, let the public see it all. Amora's hands trembled. She scrolled down. Thousands of comments. Wait, what? Is she a scam too? Men are suffering. Justice for Chike. Let him post the proof. Amora dropped her phone. She felt like the floor had opened beneath her. Adiz called immediately. Have you seen it? Yes, Amora whispered. Do you know what he's talking about? Is any of it true? No. I mean, I saw my ex one time at the pharmacy. He came to pick medicine for his mother. We spoke for 5 minutes. That's it. But does Chike have a picture or something? I don't know. Maybe. He could have followed me. Taken something out of context. Adiz's voice was shaking now. He's trying to flip the story. He's going to make you the villain. Amora stood up. No, she said. He won't. She called Kyoma. I need to speak. Now. Before this lie spreads. Kyoma's voice was calm. We're already preparing your statement. But first, we need to find out what he has. They met with a digital security expert that afternoon. He checked Chike's pages and said, this is a soft attack. He's using implication without evidence. Classic gaslighting. If he had real proof, he would have posted it. So what do I do? Amora asked. You tell the truth again, Kyoma said, loudly, clearly, and with power. That night, Amora made a video. She sat on her bed. No makeup, just her raw face. She looked into the camera and spoke slowly. I never wanted to be here again, explaining myself. But I won't stay silent when lies are being used to cover the truth. She took a breath. Yes, I saw my ex a few days before the wedding. At work. In public. For 5 minutes. That's it. No affair. No meeting behind anyone's back. Just medicine. That's all. Her voice got stronger. But even if I had a past, it still doesn't excuse what Chike did. This is not about me. This is about how a man used a woman as a cover for a secret relationship. And now that the truth is out, he's trying to spin the story. She paused and leaned forward. I'm not perfect, but I'm not a liar, and I will not let my story be stolen. She ended the video. It was posted that same night, and by morning, it had gone viral again. People responded fast. Thank you for clearing it up. Even if she had a past, it doesn't justify betrayal. She stayed calm. He's just angry he got caught. The tide turned again. Chike's plan failed. He tried to reply with vague screenshots and blurry images. But they were weak. No proof. Just shadows. He deleted his post. And for the first time, he stayed quiet. Amora sat on her balcony that evening, watching the sunset. Adiz joined her with a bottle of juice. You survived, she said. Amora smiled. I'm tired. I know. But I'm stronger than I thought. Yes, you are. They sat in silence for a while. Then Adiz said, Do you still think about what you almost became? Amora looked at her. A wife with no truth. Yeah. Amora leaned her head back. I think about it every day. And every day, I thank God I found the courage to walk away. Adiz smiled. Your vow wasn't to a man. It was to yourself. Amora nodded. And I'm still keeping it. 2 months had passed since the wedding that never happened. Amora was no longer the bride everyone pitied. She was no longer the woman in the viral video with a microphone in her hand and pain in her voice. She had become something more. She had become a movement. The wedding march had grown into a community. Every week, women sent in their stories. Every week, Amora shared them, some with names, most without. She didn't want fame. She wanted truth. And with every story shared, another woman found her voice. But even with all the good coming out of her pain, Amora still had moments when the past tried to pull her back. Some nights, she would lie awake in bed, remembering Chike's face at the altar. That confused, guilty smile. That stupid confidence in his eyes. Other nights, she would hear her mother's voice in her head, whispering, You could have just married and fixed it inside the house. But deep down, she knew she did the right thing. She didn't need to fix anything. She wasn't broken. She was just free. One Saturday morning, Amora received an invitation. It was from a popular women's conference in Lagos. They wanted her to speak. They had seen her videos, followed her work, and believed her voice could help more people. She didn't say yes immediately. She stared at the message for hours. Then she whispered to herself, This is the final step. She called Kyoma that night. I want to speak. Kyoma smiled on the phone. I already knew you would. The conference was huge. Thousands of women from across the country were attending. There were banners everywhere with bold words. Truth, strength, voice, power. Amora sat backstage, breathing slowly. She wore a dark green gown, simple but elegant. Her hair was in a low bun. No jewelry, no distractions. She didn't need any of those things to shine. The host walked in. You're next, she said, smiling warmly. Are you ready? Amora stood up. I've been ready since the day I dropped that MIC. She stepped onto the stage. The crowd clapped softly. She stood in front of the podium and looked out at the sea of faces. Then she spoke. 2 months ago, I stood at the altar, thinking I was about to marry the love of my life. I was wrong. I was about to marry a lie. The room was silent. I found out, just days before the wedding, that the man I loved had a secret. He was in a relationship with another woman. An older woman. A woman who was sponsoring him. And I was the cover story. She paused. I could have walked away quietly. I could have hidden my shame. But I chose something else. She leaned forward. I chose to speak. The crowd leaned in too. I spoke for myself. But what happened next was something I never imagined. Other women started speaking too. Not because I gave them power, but because they remembered they already had it. She raised her voice now. This is not about revenge. This is about refusing to be silent. This is about refusing to live in shame that was never ours to carry. People started clapping. This is about walking away, not in weakness, but in strength. The clapping grew louder. This is the wedding march, but not the kind that ends in rings and photos. This is the march of every woman who chooses truth over fear. The entire room stood up. People were cheering now. Some were crying. And Amora? She smiled. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She stood strong. Because this time, she wasn't carrying pain. She was carrying power. Later that evening, Amora sat in her hotel room, exhausted but happy. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. She opened it carefully. I saw your speech. I should have known you were more dangerous with truth than I ever was with lies. Enjoy the spotlight. I'm done fighting you. Chike. Amora stared at the message. Then she deleted it. She didn't even bother replying. Chike was no longer a chapter in her life. He was a footnote. The next day, while walking through the hotel lobby, a young girl approached her. She was about 16. Slim. Dark-skinned. Shy. Excuse me, the girl said, looking down. Yes. You're Amora, right? Amora smiled. Yes, I am. I just wanted to say, thank you. Amora tilted her head. For what? For showing me that I don't have to stay quiet when people hurt me. Amora's eyes softened. What's your name? Chisholm. Amora reached out and held her hand. Chisholm, I want you to promise me something. The girl nodded. Promise me you'll always speak your truth. Even if your voice shakes. Even if nobody claps. Promise me you won't let the world silence you. Chisholm smiled. I promise. Amora gave her a hug. That moment meant more than the whole conference. Because truth had started a fire. And the fire was spreading. Back in Enugu, Amora returned to her normal life. She resumed her job at the pharmacy. She walked the same streets. She greeted her neighbors like before. But something had changed. People looked at her with respect now. With admiration. Even those who had judged her at first were now silent when she passed. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. But they stepped aside. Because truth clears a path no lies can block. One afternoon, she visited the church where her wedding almost happened. The hall was empty. The chairs were arranged neatly. The pulpit stood quiet. She walked down the aisle slowly. She remembered the music. The flowers. The way people clapped when she entered in her dress. She stood in the same spot where she had held the microphone. And whispered, "Thank you." Not to the church. Not to the crowd. But to herself. For not backing down. For walking away. For choosing her own ending. Later that evening, she sat with Adiz outside her house. They drank cold malt and watched kids playing in the street. So, Adiz said, "What's next?" Amora smiled. "Peace. No more drama. No more drama. Love. Maybe someday. But for now." Amora leaned back. "For now, I'm just living." They both laughed. Adiz raised her bottle. To peace. Amora raised hers too. To power. And just like that, the bride who walked away became the woman the world couldn't ignore. She didn't burn everything down. She just lit one small fire of truth. And watched it shine.